Hey, today we're reading out of As Bill Sees It, the references to prayer. I'm going to start out on page 20. Light from a prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We treasure our serenity prayer because it brings a new light to us that can dissipate our old-time and nearly fatal habit of fooling ourselves. In the radiance of this prayer, we see that defeat, rightly accepted, need be no disaster. We now know that we do not have to run away, nor ought we try to overcome adversity by still another bulldozing power drive that can only push up obstacles before us faster than they can be taken down.
Okay, page 33, Foundation for Life. We discovered that we receive guidance for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on order and on our terms. In praying, we ask simply that throughout the day, God place in us the best understanding of His will, that we can have for that day, and that we can be given the grace by which we may carry it out. There is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit, but when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life.
55. Seeking guidance. Man is supposed to think and act. He wasn't made in God's image to be an automaton. My old formula along this line runs as follows. First, think through every situation, pro and con, praying meanwhile that I not be influenced by ego considerations. Affirm that I would like to do God's will. Then, having turned the problem over in this fashion and getting no conclusive or compelling answer, I wait for further guidance, which may come into the mind directly or through other people or through circumstances. If I feel I can't wait and still get no definite indication, I repeat the first measure several times, try to pick out the best course, and then proceed to act. I know if I'm wrong, the heavens won't fall. A lesson will be learned in any case.
Page 63, free of dependence. I ask myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release me from this unbearable depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It is better to comfort than to be comforted. Suddenly, I realized what the answer might be. My basic flaw had always been dependence on people or circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and confidence. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I fought for them. And when defeat came, so did my depression. Reinforced by what grace I could find in prayer, I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people and upon circumstances. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had loved.
78. Clearing a channel. During the day, we can pause where situations must be met and decisions made and renew the simple request, Thy will, not mine, be done. If at these points our emotional disturbance happen to be great, we will more surely keep our balance provided we remember and repeat to ourselves a particular prayer or phrase that is appealed to us in our reading or meditation. Just saying it over and over will often enable us to clear a channel coked up with anger, fear, frustration, or misunderstanding and permit us to return to the surest help of all, our search for God's will, not our own, in the moment of stress.
89, review the day. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? We must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to ourselves and to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken.
Okay. 9.3. Atmosphere of grace. Those of us who have come to make regular use of prayer would no more do without it than we would refuse air, food, or sunshine. And for the same reason, when we refuse air, light, or food, the body suffers. When we turn away from meditation and prayer, we likewise deprive our minds, our emotions, and our intuitions of vitally needed support. As the body can fail in its purpose for lack of nourishment, so can the soul. We all need the light of God's reality, the nourishment of His strength, and the atmosphere of His grace. To an amazing extent, the facts of AA life confirm this ageless truth.
Page 108, learn in quiet. In 1941, a news clipping was called to our attention by a New York member. In an obituary notice from a local paper, there appeared these words: God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Never had we seen so much AA in so few words. With amazing speed, the serenity prayer came into general use. In meditation, debate has no place. We rest quietly with the thoughts or prayers of spiritually centered people who understand, so that we may experience and learn. This is a state of being that so often discovers and deepens a conscious contact with God.
117. The sense of belonging. Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us. We no longer live in a completely hostile world. We are no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. Can't even say it. The moment we catch even a glimpse of God's will, the moment we begin to see truth, justice, and love as the real and eternal things in life, we are no longer deeply disturbed by all the seeming evidence to the contrary that surrounds us in purely human affairs. We know that God lovingly watches over us. We know that when we turn to Him, all will be well with us here and hereafter.
127. Persistence in prayer. We often tend to slight serious meditation and prayer as something not really necessary. To be sure, we feel it as something that might help us to meet an occasional emergency, but at first, many of us are apt to regard it as a somewhat mysterious skill of clergymen from which we may hope to get a second-hand benefit. In AA, we have found that the actual good results of prayer are beyond question. They are matters of knowledge and experience. All those who have persisted have found strength not ordinarily their own, They have found wisdom beyond their usual capability. And they have increasingly found a peace of mind which can stand firm in the face of difficult circumstances.
148. More than comfort. When I'm feeling depressed, I repeat to myself statements such as these. Pain is the touchstone of progress. Fear no evil. This too will pass. This experience can be turned to benefit. These fragments of prayer bring far more than mere comfort. They keep me on the track of right acceptance. They break up my compulsive themes of guilt, depression, rebellion, and pride, and sometimes they endow me with the courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference.
Page 170, whose will? We have seen AAs ask with much earnestness and faith for God's explicit guidance on matters ranging all the way from a shattering domestic or financial crisis to a minor personal fault, like tardiness. A man who tries to run his life rigidly by this kind of prayer, by this self-serving demand of God for replies, is a particularly disconcerting individual. To any questioning or criticism of his actions, he instantly proffers his reliance upon prayer for guidance in all matters, great or small. He may have forgotten the possibility that his own wishful thinking and the human tendency to rationalize have distorted his so-called guidance with the best of intentions. He tends to force his will into all sorts of situations and problems with the comfort assurance that he is acting under God's specific direction.
Okay. 189. Experimenters. We agnostics liked AA all right, and were quick to say that it had done miracles, but we recoiled from meditation and prayer as obstinately as the scientist who refused to perform a certain experiment, lest it prove his pet theory wrong. When we finally did experiment and unexpected results followed, we felt different. In fact, we knew different. And so we were sold on meditation and prayer. And that, we have found, can happen to anybody who tries. It has been well said that almost the only scoffers at prayer are those who never tried it enough.
Okay, page 202, the hour of decision. Not all large decisions can be well made by simply listing the pros and cons of a given situation, helpful and necessary as this process is. We cannot, I need to get this call. Can we pause or do something?
We'll just stop there.
Okay, and then we'll continue on some other
We'll
time.
continue tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.